All right, so we're back for another deep dive, and today we're going to be talking about the potential for what some are calling a formula of engines. And this is in Formula One with the new 2026 regulations coming up. So for this deep dive, we are mainly going to be focusing on an interview with legendary F1 designer ADRIAN Newey.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because he doesn't explicitly say engines will be important in 2026, but he almost sounds like
Well,
he's warning us.
yeah. There is a real sense of caution in his words, especially when he says the possibility of that one constructor getting it really right and it becoming an engine formula, at least initially. You can almost see the gears turning in his head as he is saying it.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
Well, he is the master of aerodynamics, so for him to be putting this much emphasis on the engine side of things, it definitely makes you sit up and take notice. You know what's really fascinating about all of this is that catching up on engine development is so much harder and more expensive than with aero development.
Okay, so why is that? Is it
Yeah.
something about the tech itself?
Yeah, I mean, it's a combination of factors. With aero, teams can kind of see what their rivals are doing, and they can test different concepts relatively quickly in a wind tunnel, and that they can iterate. But with engines, it's much more of a black box. The complexity and the investment required to even make small gains is just enormous. It's not just tweaking a wing. It's fundamental breakthroughs in materials and combustion and energy recovery. It's just the whole 9 yards.
Right. And we have seen this play out before, haven't we? I mean, the most recent example is the hybrid era where Mercedes just dominated for 8 straight years.
Yeah, exactly. They got the hybrid engine formula right, basically from the start. And no one could touch them. It was a masterclass in both power and efficiency. And it really highlights a key point, which is that getting that early advantage with the engine can have a massive impact on the whole competitive landscape. And this can play out for years to come. I mean, teams poured resources into trying to catch up, but bridging that gap it's a massive undertaking, both technically and financially.
So are we saying that 2026 could be a repeat of the hybrid era? One team cracks the code and they just run away with it?
I mean, it's definitely a possibility. It's not a foregone conclusion. There's some interesting variables at play this time around, starting with Honda's return as an engine supplier in 2026. And they're partnering with, wait for it, Aston Martin.
Oh, wow. And guess who's joining Aston Martin that same year?
Fernando Alonso.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. It's hard not to think back to that tumultuous McLaren-Honda partnership, from 2015 to 2017.
Right. Honda's engine was notoriously unreliable back then, and it basically derailed Alonso's chances. It makes you wonder, could this be a chance for Honda to redeem themselves? Or are we headed for a repeat of history?
It's the ultimate what-if scenario, isn't it? Honda powering Alonso to a championship after all the struggles they had together before. But, let's be realistic. Honda's recent success with Red Bull doesn't guarantee anything.
Why not? I mean, haven't they been just crushing it lately?
Sure, but the 2026 engine regulations are a whole different ballgame. There's a much bigger emphasis on electrical power and sustainable fuels, and that's going to require a totally different approach. So while Honda's recent form is encouraging, it's not a guarantee of success in this new era.
Okay, so Honda's a bit of a wild card then. Who else is looking strong for 2026? Are there any front runners we should be watching?
Well, based on the information we have, Mercedes seem to be in a good position. They've got several customer teams, McLaren, Williams, and Alpine all using their engines.
So what? Doesn't everyone have customer teams?
Yeah, sure, but the sheer number of teams running the Mercedes engine gives them a massive data advantage. It's like having multiple test labs working on your engine simultaneously. More data means more opportunities to identify problems and solve them, and ultimately more potential for development. It's a significant edge.
And speaking of Mercedes, let's not forget Antonio Lobato's prediction. This is from the 2024 Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. He claimed that Mercedes already had the best engine even before the 2026 regulations were finalized. So whether that's insider info or just speculation, it definitely adds to the intrigue.
He does have a knack for knowing things, doesn't he? It certainly looks like Mercedes has been quietly working on their 2026 engine while others were focused on the current season. The big question is, will their meticulous preparation pay off, or can another manufacturer pull off a surprise?
Well, Formula One is all about upsets, right? It wouldn't be the same without a few surprises along the way. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's bring it back to the big picture. Are we really saying that 2026 could be a turning point for Formula One where engine performance becomes the be-all and end-all?
It's definitely a possibility, and one that Newey himself has highlighted. The potential for one team to dominate for a long time, just like Mercedes did in the hybrid era, is definitely there. But it's important to remember, Formula One is a complex ecosystem. Even if we have a formula of engines, it doesn't mean the racing will be predictable or boring.
But wouldn't one team having a superior engine just make it, like, really hard for others to compete? Wouldn't we just see the same winner week after week?
Not necessarily. Dominance in one area often pushes innovation in other areas.
How so?
When one team has a clear advantage, it forces everyone else to think outside the box, to push the boundaries of technology even further. We saw this during the Mercedes era. Yes, they were dominant, but it also spurred a lot of development in areas like energy recovery systems and power unit packaging. Other teams had to get creative to close the gap, and that led to some really interesting advancements.
So you're saying a dominant team can actually accelerate the development of the whole field?
Exactly. And let's not forget, dominance is rarely absolute. Even during those 8 years of Mercedes dominance, we still saw exciting races,
Definitely.
unexpected results, and just moments of brilliance from other drivers and teams.
True. Think of Ferrari's challenge in 2017 and 2018, or Red Bull and Verstappen snatching the Drivers' Championship in 2021. Those were some intense battles.
Exactly. So even if we see a team dominate in the early years of the 2026 regulations, it doesn't mean the sport will become a procession.
Okay, I'm starting to see your point. But with all this talk about engines, we haven't even touched on the drivers themselves. How much of a difference can they make in a formula of engines?
It's a crucial question. Because at the end of the day, you still need a skilled driver to extract the full potential of any car, no matter how powerful the engine is. It's not just about going flat out on the straights. It's about managing the energy deployment, optimizing fuel efficiency, knowing when to push and when to conserve.
Right. And it's not just about raw speed either.
Yeah.
Racecraft, things like overtaking, defending, tire management, strategy calls,
Yeah.
all of that still matters immensely.
Absolutely. A brilliant driver in a slightly less powerful car could still outmaneuver a less skilled driver in the fastest car. I mean, we've seen it time and time again in Formula One. Think of Lewis Hamilton's ability to consistently outperform his teammates, or Fernando Alonso pulling off those incredible overtakes.
Or Max Verstappen's aggressive style and car control.
Yeah,
So driver skill will still be a major factor even if we have a formula of engines.
absolutely. And in a way, the increased emphasis on engine performance might actually make the driver's role even more important.
Okay. That's an interesting take. Tell me more.
Well, with these more powerful engines and complex energy recovery systems coming in 2026, drivers will have to be even more precise and strategic in how they manage their power units. They'll need to make split-second decisions about when to deploy electrical boost, when to lift and coast to save fuel, how to optimize their energy usage throughout the race. It is a lot to manage.
It's almost like they'll be conducting an orchestra, right? Trying to harmonize all these different systems to create the most efficient performance.
That's a great analogy. The drivers who can master this complex dance of technology and skill, they'll have a significant advantage.
So it's not just horsepower, it's horsepower management. And that's where the driver's talent and experience will really shine through. But all this talk about drivers and engines, it's made me realize we've neglected another crucial element.
Which is,
The teams themselves.
Yes.
Strategists, the engineers, the mechanics, the pit crew. They all play such a huge role in shaping the outcome of a race. And in a formula of engines, their importance could be even greater, wouldn't you say?
absolutely. The team behind the driver will be more vital than ever. Think about it. With these more complex power units and energy recovery systems, the strategists will have to make even more intricate calculations, factoring in battery life, fuel consumption, energy deployment modes.
That's 4D chess, right? You get so many more variables to juggle.
Exactly. And the engineers will need to be on top of their game, constantly monitoring and analyzing data, optimizing performance, identifying potential problems before they even arise. They'll be developing and implementing those crucial software updates that can give their drivers that extra edge on track.
And let's not forget about the mechanics and the pit crew. Their speed and precision during pit stops will be even more critical. A perfectly executed pit stop can win or lose a race, especially if the margins are tight.
And don't forget, the 2026 regulations will also limit the number of personnel allowed in the pit lane during pit stops. That adds another layer of pressure for the teams, demanding they streamline their procedures and ensure each crew member is operating at peak efficiency.
It's clear that these 2026 regulations are going to demand a lot more from the teams, both in terms of technical expertise and operational excellence.
Without a doubt, the teams that can adapt quickly, embrace innovation, and cultivate a culture of teamwork and collaboration will be the ones that thrive in this new era of Formula One.
It's almost like the sport is entering a new renaissance. A period of rapid technological advancement and fierce competition. That will push everyone to their limits.
That's a great way to put it, and it's going to be fascinating to see how it all unfolds.
It really is. But let's zoom out for a second and look at the broader implications of this potential formula of engines. Because it's not just about the sport itself. It's about the technology that's being developed and the impact it could have on the automotive industry as a whole.
That's a crucial point. Formula One has always been a test bed for cutting-edge technology, and the 2026 regulations are pushing that even further. The advancements we're seeing in hybrid engines, energy recovery systems, and sustainable fuels in F1 could have a huge impact on the cars we'll be driving in the future.
It's like a high-speed laboratory for the automotive industry, right? They're pushing the boundaries of what's possible. And those innovations often trickle down to our everyday cars.
Exactly. For example, the hybrid tech Mercedes pioneered in Formula One is already in their road cars, improving fuel efficiency and reducing emissions. And the development of sustainable fuels, which will be a key part of the 2026 regulations, could pave the way for a more sustainable future for the entire automotive industry.
So it's not just about entertainment. It's about real progress. Formula One is driving innovation that could benefit us all in the long run.
Absolutely. And let's not forget the inspiration factor. The stories of ingenuity, teamwork, and determination that we see in Formula One can inspire us all to strive for excellence in our own lives.
There's something incredibly captivating about watching these incredibly talented individuals pushing themselves and their machines to the absolute limit, all in the pursuit of victory. It's a testament to the human spirit, our drive to innovate and excel.
Well said. Who knows, maybe some young fans watching Formula One today will be inspired to become the engineers, designers, and drivers of tomorrow, shaping the future of the automotive industry and pushing technological progress that benefits us all.
I love that thought. It's a reminder that Formula One is more than just a sport. It's a platform for innovation, inspiration, and human achievement.
And with the 2026 regulations looming, who knows what incredible feats of engineering and human endeavor we'll witness in the years to come.
It's going to be an exciting ride, that's for sure. Yeah. But before we wrap up, let's take a step back and consider the bigger picture.
Okay, what do you have in mind? What if the real winner isn't a team but the sport itself?
What do you mean?
Well, think about it. This new era, with its emphasis on sustainability and pushing technological boundaries, it could actually elevate the whole sport.
Ah, I see what you're getting at. What if the real legacy of 2026 isn't about which team wins the most championships?
Yeah.
But the advancements that are made, the tech that's developed, and the inspiration that it sparks.
Exactly. The real victory could be a more sustainable, innovative, and exciting future for both Formula One and the automotive industry as a whole.
Okay, so let's recap a little bit. We've covered a lot of ground today, from NEWEY'S warnings to the potential shakeups in the team hierarchy.
Yeah, we've also explored how driver skill might be even more crucial, and how teams will need to adapt to thrive in this new environment.
Right, and we even touched on those wider implications for the automotive industry and the future of the sustainable technology.
It's been quite the deep dive.
It really has. So as we wrap this up, what's the one thing you want our listeners to remember?
Don't underestimate the human element. You know, technology plays a huge role. But it's the people, the drivers, the engineers, the strategists, the entire team. They're the ones who ultimately determine the outcome.
That's such a perfect reminder that Formula One is at its core a human endeavor. It's about passion, dedication, teamwork, and that relentless pursuit of excellence.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And that's something we can all connect with, whether we're hardcore fans or just getting into the sport. So to our listeners out there, keep exploring, keep questioning, and don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel for more deep dives like this one. Until next time.
Yeah, so what are you thinking?
Well, we've talked a lot about, who might dominate in 2026. But what if the real winner isn't a team? What if it's the sport itself?
Interesting.
This new era with its emphasis on sustainability and pushing those technological boundaries, it could elevate the whole sport.
I see what you mean. What if the real legacy of 2026 isn't about which team wins the most championships, but the advancements they make and the tech they develop, the inspiration it sparks?
Yeah, exactly. The real victory could be a more sustainable, innovative, and exciting future for both Formula One and the automotive industry as a whole.
I like that.
So we've covered a lot today, from NEWEY'S warnings to the potential shakeups in the team hierarchy.
We've explored how driver skill might be even more crucial in this new formula, and we talked about how teams will need to adapt to thrive in this new environment.
Yeah, and we even touched on those wider implications for the automotive industry. and the future of sustainable technology.
It's been quite the deep dive.
It really has. So as we wrap this up, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from all of this?
I think the biggest thing is, don't underestimate the human element. Technology obviously plays a huge role. But it's the people, the drivers, the engineers, the strategists, the entire team. They're the ones who ultimately determine the outcome.
Yeah, that's such a good point. It's a perfect reminder that Formula One is,
Well,
at its core, it's a human endeavor. It's about passion and dedication, teamwork, and that relentless pursuit of excellence.
well said.
And that's something we can all connect with, whether we're hardcore fans or just getting into the sport. So to all of our listeners out there, keep exploring, keep questioning. And until next time.